We welcome now the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety in Mississippi, Commissioner Sean Tindell. Hey, Commissioner, how you doing today, sir?
Doing well. How you doing, Gerard?
Doing fantastic. So we've been discussing what happened here in Mississippi 20 years ago today. Hurricane Katrina, of course, came on shore and left a lot of damage and destruction and even death in its wake as it moved across the state of Mississippi, state of Louisiana. And first responders, what a critical role they played in providing some comfort and trying to really take an incredibly chaotic situation. You don't realize how orderly our society is until it is destroyed by a storm like that, and it immediately descends into total chaos. You can't move around. You have a concern about mobility and fuel and food and shelter and just the normal staples of life we take for granted every day. All of a sudden, those are gone, and that just sends us into chaos. But the first responders, they are there to try to bring back some order and some comfort. You have some experience with that. Talk about it.
Well, I can tell you from both ends. Of course, when Katrina hit, I was working as a prosecutor on the Mississippi Gulf Coast and saw what happened afterwards. And you're exactly right. I mean, this area fell into chaos in the days after that, where people needed food, they needed gas, there was no electricity, and it just shows you how quickly our society can fall into a state of panic and discontent and really the critical role that our first responders play. And now I see it as commissioner when we've had Hurricane Zeta come through and other hurricanes, and thinking back on it, in Katrina even, that's one thing. The first responders don't leave. They stay, and their families leave. The families might go somewhere else, but they stay, and they're there during the storm. They're there after the storm. They're not worried about their property. They might be worried about it, but they're not there to take care of it. They're there to take care of the people of the state, the citizens, and those that are impacted, to protect them and to protect their communities. And they do that at their own sacrifice, their sacrifice of their personal property, sacrifice of their family, who they often leave, and the sacrifice of themselves to try to save each other and others. And so I really want to thank the first responders out there for what they do and what they did after Hurricane Katrina and what they do each and every day to protect our communities.
So, Commissioner, what exact entities, agencies, organizations are considered first responders? I mean, because it's a lot of different groups, right, that provide resources in a situation like this. We just talked to Colonel Prine from the National Guard, and he made the point that, the National Guard are really not the first responders. They're there to support more the effort in the first responders. So who's included in that group of first responders?
Well, generally, your local law enforcement and your local firefighters and your local EMTs and your emergency management folks. I mean, they're on the ground. This is their community, and often, while they might be in a safe area, they don't leave the zone. And then, followed by that, you have your state police and your state assets that are there, ready to mobilize and be a part of it. Usually, they're in a safer area, a little bit further back, and when the moment is ready, that they'll come in and offer assistance to the local law enforcement when and where it is needed. And so really those are your first responders. The Guard does a great job of being readily available to make sure areas are secured and help coordinate communications and other things, as well as the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. And so I can tell you, whenever we have a storm coming in or there's a threat, we're on the phone with each other trying to coordinate efforts. We're on the phone with the governor trying to do debriefs. And then we're also meeting with our local officials, trying to make sure they get what they need. And then even a year ago, when we had the torrential rains and damage in North Carolina, that's when we'll get on the phone with other state police and state agencies from across the Southeast and say, hey, what kind of help do you need? What kind of resources can we bring? And try to make sure we have that coordinated effort. And one of the things I think we learned after Katrina is you need to have those communications beforehand. You need to have those discussions ahead of time, because the other thing that can be a problem is when too many people show up. And we've seen scenarios where you have too many volunteers coming, too many law enforcement from other parts of the country and state, and you don't have the resources to feed and house them. So it really needs to be a coordinated effort in that response.
Yeah, and the communications, we were talking about that with the colonel back then, were somewhat archaic, really, compared to what we have today. We had little to no interoperability, and after that, the good news is that all the various companies that make communication systems for law enforcement officers, first responders, realized that was a major issue. I mean, Katrina really brought focus on that, and so that's been improved dramatically.
Absolutely. That and 9/11,
Yeah.
President Bush, and then after Katrina, Governor Barber, a coordinated effort across the country to try to improve our communication systems and the interoperability of those systems. And we've come a long ways since then with our Miss Win communication system that operates across the state and our communication devices. And it was absolutely crazy. I had gone to Hattiesburg, took my grandfather there, came back the next day. Couldn't get in touch with anybody in my family. My grandmother, we had left her at Gulfport Memorial Hospital. She had fractured her hip. We went to the hospital to try to get her out the next day, and they had no record of her being there because their computer systems were down.
Yeah.
And so, you really couldn't talk to anybody. I didn't talk to my mom and my stepdad for days. I had people searching for me, and I was searching for them, but you really didn't have any ways to communicate. So
Wow.
it was
Man, that's
quite a
nerve-wracking.
crazy time. It really
So,
was. It really was.
So are we more resilient now? Because I think about what you just described. That man, it's the law enforcement officer. So I will just disclose this: the city of Biloxi and the city of Biloxi Police Department were customers of mine back in those days in the IT world, and I remember that happening. Of course, we were able to fortunately get resources and gear and some assistance to them to try to restore just a minimum level of operations. But it affects them so that those organizations struggle to operate in those scenarios.
That's right. And I don't think anybody expected quite the damage we saw. I mean, it looked like a bomb went off south of the railroad tracks down here. And for those that don't live down here, the railroad tracks run about a half a mile north of the Gulf of Mexico. And so everything south of those railroad tracks from Jackson County to Hancock County, and even in Hancock County north of the railroad tracks, was destroyed. I mean, it looked like a bomb went off. And so when the first responders couldn't communicate, all we knew to do was try to put resources and people out there to protect homes. And I've still got a picture of my house that it's got spray painted on there. If you loot, we'll shoot. I mean, and so people started taking matters into their own hands immediately after the
Yeah,
storm, and it was a moment of resilience. I mean, I was proud in the years that followed the resiliency of Mississippi, the way we came together. I heard Governor Barber and Governor Reeves speak earlier today about those efforts and the leadership that they presented and how we built back. And in Governor Barber's words, if we built back to what we were, we weren't successful. We needed to be bigger and better, and we have been. I think over the last 20 years, the coast has been resilient, the state has been resilient. And if you think about it, what followed Katrina? Couple of years later, we had the Great Recession. A couple of years after
yeah,
that, we had the BP oil spill. And in a matter of about 5 years, you really had a triple whammy down here that has still left a lasting impact. But the people, one foot in front of the other, kept moving forward. And I'm proud to be from the coast, and I'm proud to be a Mississippian, and I'm proud of the way we've recovered after this storm.
absolutely. And you're absolutely right as well that it was a triple whammy. I got to tell you, I haven't heard anybody discuss it quite in that context, but that's 100% accurate. But the good people of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, of course, rebuilt better. I would agree with you. It's much better today. And I said something about that yesterday when I was down there with my wife's family who lost their home in Biloxi, just looking up and down 90 thinking this will never look the same. It's much better today than it was then. I mean, it's been rebuilt, and the Gulf Coast is thriving, as you indicate.
Absolutely. And then we had some, Mayor Holloway over in Biloxi. Mayor Ward had just taken office about 6 weeks before Katrina. And really,
Yeah.
considering where he came from, did a great job with the efforts in Gulfport.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, we're so blessed that we live in a state where the people were committed to rebuilding it bigger, better. Governor Barber's absolutely right. If we didn't make it better after this, we failed. But that's not the case. We have succeeded. It is definitely much better, and it's just great to see the coast being in that situation today. Let's hope and pray we don't have to face that situation again with Hurricane Katrina. No more of those bad boys. Commissioner, thanks for coming on. Always enjoy it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gerard. Appreciate y'all.
You bet. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.